We're sharing this, and so make sure we're good. There we go. Now I'm a few minutes early, and let me take a look here and see who we've got with us. Okay, glad to see you, Jacob, and West, and then Libby. Glad to see you here as well. And if you would put, yeah, thank you, everybody. Make sure you've got everything on mute. I appreciate that. We are a little bit early, and as people join us, if they do, they'll be able to come in and they can look at the start of the video. What's going to happen today, again, just to repeat so everyone understands, I make the recording, okay, and then I convert it to a YouTube video, and then I post the link there in the announcements section in Canvas. I want to just really a couple of things here, and today I just want to quickly kind of go back over navigating through Canvas. So those who may have not had a class with me will have a good comfort level. Those of you who have, just to reinforce some things. Then we're going to talk about the assignment that's coming up and some things in the textbook that we need to cover for this week. Now, as I said before, I've started a little bit early, so if someone misses something, if they come in at 11, whatever, then they can simply go back and scroll back. Let me go up here for just a moment, and this is just the home area, and I have all of these different modules all closed up, and you can see we have we go down to 14 modules and then the finals, okay? And I'm going to click on the announcements for just a moment, and again, just to reiterate, as you see the announcement, you're going to see invitations. And when you see an invitation to a meeting, okay, what that basically means is, okay, if you want to beam in, you can. Because after I've recorded that, after we've had the session and I've done the recording, I have to take that recording and convert it to a YouTube file, to a YouTube video, and then I post that video once I upload it and post it. So when you'll see it, here's the screencast. This is from Monday, and I redid this because, of course, you remember we had the little technical glitch where the Wi-Fi didn't hold up, and I wasn't in the Ethernet as a backup, and so we had a problem. I also want to let everybody know I posted virtual office hours for yesterday and for today. And today the virtual office hours will be from 4 o'clock to 5:30, and so I tried it to that, and then I'll be back in Shawnee on Thursday, which is of course tomorrow, and I have a class at 12:30 to 1:45, and then a class at 6 o'clock. So I'm essentially in my office from around 2 o'clock till 6 o'clock, which is about 4 more hours. Okay, so that you should each day you should log in and take a look to see what I've got going on. Now, usually what I'll do if I have virtual office hours set up, I'll have everything all laid out in every class I have with all of my meetings there, the links and the invitations, all that. But it's a good idea to check it, okay, and to make sure that you do. Now, this is the one for this is the makeup screencast. You'll notice it's a YouTube video. These are virtual office hours. That's from yesterday. This is virtual office hours this afternoon, 4 to 5:30. And then this is the invitation from the other day. Okay, and then of course the screencast. This of course was the invitation everybody received today. Now let me talk just a few moments about handling all of this as well as possible. First of all, let me say this. If you choose, if I were in your shoes, okay, and I would probably do this. You can access this screencast, okay, now, and then when it's in YouTube, you can access it via a smartphone, a tablet, or a desktop. I would say use the device that you feel most comfortable with. Let me say this. I don't believe that the screens on a smartphone is going to give you enough visual landscape to really understand what's going on, okay? And it's, in addition, but that may, if that's what you've got, that's what you've got. A tablet's better. An ideal would be a desktop. And you could go into the lab in Bailey, and they've disabled sound there, so you can see the screencast. But you could, if you wanted to, and I've had students do this, take a smartphone with them, okay, and go to the screencast, go to the YouTube video on their phone, and then go to the YouTube video on one of those machines that has a large screen, and just follow along, okay? And it's really designed for you to be able to do that, and or to have the textbook with you as well, okay? So that's just one of those things that it's a good idea to do that. Now, so we have the announcements section, and I'm just kind of doing a quick overview again, just kind of getting us into this process. Now, again, let's look at the files section, okay? And it is exactly what it says it is. Every file that I use in this course is over here in the files, okay? And these files may show up, as part of an assignment, that type of thing, but they're all over here. Now you're going to see, obviously, some of these, like this, that are essentially keys and things like that, that only I can see. So again, a reminder, when you look at the screencast and you see some of these things, don't let it throw you, okay? Because I'm looking at this screen from the instructor view, okay? So I want to make sure that you do that. And again, as folks join, please do me a favor, mute your video, mute your sound, okay? So that we don't hear you, and mute your video. And now I want to talk for a moment. I go back for just a second about the announcements, and I want to talk about the virtual office. Let me tell you how it works. It's simple. You go over to the virtual office. I have the virtual office open, and when you come in, I hear a chime. All right. And then I can respond if you have a question and you want it to be private. You can do a chat, all right, and I can try to answer your question. I can share a screen. I can go over and look at something in in Banner or whatever. If you have a question of that sort, if you're an advisee, and so I can get as much done, all right, using the virtual office as anybody else. Now, someone said, look, I'm going to be busy. Could I have a virtual office hours, a meeting at some reason 7 or 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening? That's the best time I can do. If I can do that, I do it. Okay. I try to keep somewhere between 12 and 15 office hours a week. Now, I'm in town on Monday and Shawnee on Mondays. I'm in Shawnee on Thursdays. Tuesdays and then particularly Wednesdays, I do the broadcast from Oklahoma City for a simple reason. Two of them. One, this is a way, okay, that I try to demonstrate my faith by using this technology to reduce my carbon footprint, okay? I use everything as much digital as I can. My home, I have technology that reduces our energy consumption. The very first thing in the Bible that we human beings did was we oversaw the creation that God gave us. So I'm very, 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 very attuned to doing that. The second thing is, these are days and usually Fridays where I do some work with people. Now I do consulting, and mostly it's with churches, and it's on a pro bono basis. And so I'm here, so I can juggle those kinds of things around. And the third is, of course, is to make it convenient and accessible for you. College is no good if it's a stressful experience where the stress that drives you is, I can't make it to a lecture because I got to go, play a game, or I've got to be in practice, or whatever. okay? And I understand that a significant portion of us pay our way through school through athletics, and I respect that. And many of you work. Some of you work and do athletics. So I try to use this technology to make the course accessible for you, to give you an opportunity to be successful and do that work, okay? Now, I've been teaching online in one way or the other for well over 25 years, and I can assure you that the way that it's astounding the number of people who choose to learn this way. In fact, in the state of Oklahoma, you can get a high school diploma now learning online. I haven't gone completely online yet, okay, because I do believe that since you're there, you know, Shawnee, most of you live there or you commute in, a hybrid format is probably the most appropriate. But in our graduate program, I teach completely virtual courses, and I have students from all over the world, okay? And this is also to kind of get you acclimated to understanding. You're probably, if you go to work for a large company, you're probably going to end up in a situation where you've got clients, okay, colleagues, all over the world through many, many, many time zones. Okay, so this is just another way that I feel like I'm kind of preparing you for the real world, because it's going to be like this. Now, this technology that we're using here is called Zoom. Allows us, if we want to have a video conference, and I can have up to, theoretically, up to 50 people. I've tried it with even 9 or 10, and it just doesn't work. And there are oftentimes, I feel like that because of folks' privacy concerns, they don't want to do a video conference, and I understand that. So I do just the screencast. And so you have that advantage of going back and looking. I also have a link in here that I believe will show you, last time I checked it worked, to take YouTube, one of my screencasts, and turn it into a transcript, which means you can read it fast. Now, if you've ever been over to TED or anywhere like that, you can get transcripts and read them very much faster than you can just viewing. But a lot of this is show and tell, okay? And so it's my decision there to go ahead and to keep us in that. Now, I'm gonna mute that, and let's get that down, because I don't want anybody to be seen. Okay, and we'll go through that process, and you'll get what I think you're going to find is, okay, that it's a very, you're going to find yourself saying, wow, I wish we did this, all my classes were like this, okay? And we can have discussions if we want to, that type of thing. You know, so work through it with us, but, you know, I'm trying to use the technology to save some energy, okay, reduce my carbon footprint, make things more accessible and more humane, I think, and more helpful for you. And at the same time, that kind of filters down to my approach, all right? I try in my courses to be as caring and as helpful as possible. I don't believe this is a course where you're supposed to guess what's on my mind. I think this is a course designed to give you tools to go out in the real world and be able to use optimization and understand management science. And this is an introductory course, obviously, but to give you practical skills that you'll use and be able to apply, and also to give you a mindset that's that an entrepreneur or business owner would have. And we're going to see that today as we talk a little bit again about the problem solving and decision making process. Okay, now I'm going to go down here to the syllabus section. We'll talk about that again. It's a little bit of a misnomer, but if you were to say, what's due when, here you are. You can click on the assignments over here, and it will give you the same thing. Okay? Now, in this course, it's set up so you can work ahead. There should never be any late work for a very simple reason. You can work ahead. You can manage your time. And it's here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The books are open, the exams are open book, open note, okay? These cases as we go through them, okay? Like, for example, Nolan plastic. I'll say, okay, here's how we solve it. We take it apart. What I've found over the years when I've taught quantitative courses and I've taught courses involving technology is that some people get very rattled, okay? And so I had to spend a lot of time just teaching them how to do the technology, and what got lost in the mix was, why am I doing this? What am I supposed to get from it? What understanding am I supposed to have? All information technology, software, all of this stuff should be decision-centric. In other words, a tool that helps me make a decision, because that's what I get paid for. I get paid out in the real world for being able to make good decisions. And we talked about that notion of optimization and so forth. Well, we've looked at the syllabus, and then let's look at the files and the announcements. Let's look at the modules, okay? And again, this has your Canvas room divided by themes, okay, if an instructor chooses to do that, or by in chronological order. And I choose, this is modularized, but it is on a chronological basis, okay? So we're working here in week 0, okay? And basically, I give you the idea, Wednesdays and Fridays are virtual days, okay? And we're going to use these virtual days to prepare for Module 1 by reviewing some of the Microsoft Excel resources. And I want to pop that out here for a minute on the Getting Started in Your Colleagues, okay? And you can come down here, and I pointed them out the other day. There are so many really, really good resources on YouTube on using Excel that I've often thought what I ought to do is just pitch the textbook and tell everybody, you know, just here are the 55 YouTube videos, and we'll download the file. But what I've found, though, if doing that in mass could create some problems, okay? So I chose just simply not to. But here, for example, I'll come down here, all right? And there's the syllabus up there. So some of these things are old stuff I've got saved. Now, I want to mention one other thing to you. In the textbook, it only goes up to chapter 16 if you have the hard copy, okay? And this PDF are chapters 17 through 21, okay? In the Anderson text, the big textbook. So when we get to those chapters, you have some assignments. You'll want to look at the PDF, okay? And I was able to wrangle that out of the publisher, okay, instead of you having to pay another fee for that type of thing. Here's also a link to this is the web page for the Foreman text, the Data Smart text, and that one, as we get into it, they're the Foreman files. This will be something we'll be using later on in one of our exercises. But now we kind of come up to the heart of the resources that I've got for you to help you out, and we're going to look at that. And then today we'll look also some at problem solving, decision making, and I just want to kind of follow up on I guess the why we're doing this, okay, and how we use this tool. This is over. Here's a YouTube video, very, very good one that talks about how to use the Solver tool, okay. And then here's a PDF from MIT and their open courseware that covers Excel optimization. Here's a site, Easy Excel. I really strongly recommend it, okay. I can tell you for a fact, there's no one on this planet who knows and uses every single function in Excel. It's designed to be this kind of Swiss Army knife for all kinds of statistical problems, and that you want to use. It does have some database functions in it, okay? And as you've heard me probably say before, the holy grail right now is a software application that gives me all the best elements of a database combined with all the best elements of a spreadsheet. Okay, now this is a nice resource right here, and I'm going to click over to it for just a second. Okay, this covers the 3 basic what if tools in Microsoft Excel. When you have Excel and you've added the solver and the data tool pack and all that stuff, and you click on data on the ribbon at the top, you'll see what if. Okay, and you're going to see the 3 things. You'll see goal seek, you'll see the scenario manager, and you'll see the data table. Then even further to the right, you'll see a little thing for solver, and I'm going to show you that today. The what if tools are tools that let me say, okay, let me conduct what we call a sensitivity analysis. What if I changed this one variable? Goal seek deals with one variable. Then we get the scenario manager, and that's where I change several variables. And I develop some scenarios, and I save them. We did a little bit of that in 1123. But the whole point is to see, okay, what do things look like if I do certain things? Okay, and that's fine. And then data table, you remember we used the data table back in 1123 when we did a time value money problem involved purchasing machinery, and we looked at the impact of interest rate or the capital hurdle rate, okay, and the I believe it was the annual cash flows, and we looked at that developing a profitability index. Now, those are to see scenarios. As I've said before, one of the most important things you can learn, okay, as a decision maker is that decisions, there are 2 things you can count on. First of all, decisions are never black and white. They're always shades of gray. Although it's natural for us to have a tendency to say, okay, a decision is either good or bad. In business, you're often making decisions that run the gamut from, or a kind of the gamut from really, really good to really, really bad. And so knowing that, we try to find some type of probability. What thing is most likely to occur? Okay. Now, the other thing is this. The second thing you can always count on is what we call unintended consequences. When we do something, all right, we create consequences, some that are intended, some that are not. And I think I gave the example the other day of, a bonus program. The company tries to encourage excellent performance, so they give people a bonus. And the unintended consequence is you demoralize everybody else. So they've got 3 people of the 1,000 people work for you. They're all very high morale. Everybody else has bad morale because they didn't get the trip to Hawaii. Okay, it's the same thing with almost every decision we make. So we want to see, okay, what are the odds that I'm going to get some outcome within a certain band or range, and we look at that. The step beyond that, of course, is optimization, where we say, okay, here's my objective function, here's what I want to achieve, and I want to minimize, maximize, or hit a target value. Then, and I'm going right through the dialog box you'd have using Solver. Then what variables am I going to change? What are my constraints? And what type of problem am I working with? Is it one that is linear in nature, so it fits a simplex LP linear model? Is it one that's nonlinear? Maybe it's concave or convex, the data points, and for example, like marginal cost. that comes up to an optimal point, comes down to an optimal point, and then starts to go back up as the law of increasing cost sets in, or marginal revenue that arcs upward to an optimal point and then it begins to fall. That type of thing. Is it like a Poisson distribution where it's kind of a stair step? I'm in a restaurant, a bunch of people come in at certain times and then they leave. Okay, or is it, I don't know why. And that's what we call a GRG evolutionary. And so those are things that, you know, you have to understand that are part of the decision-making process. They're always completely contextualized, okay? They depend upon the situation. And so as we go through the book, we're going to see these cases, but understand they assume that the people who input the numbers understand their industry, understand the context, and understand the constraints to choose, etc., so that as they get their output, especially from the optimizer, they understand what they're looking at. Okay, and we'll see that as we get further and further into the course. All right, so again, here's an excellent resource, okay, on what if analysis in Excel and how we use it and why we use it, and some good examples. I've got one also over there over at YouTube, okay. And we'll go down here, and then we've got also the solver and easy Excel. I'll pop that open again. Okay, and I want to talk for just a minute again to reemphasize something with you, to reemphasize a very, very important point. The competitive landscape in business is moving at such a fast pace that if a company can't effectively collect, organize, and act upon the data available to it, they're dead in the water. Okay, global competition has created this. The cloud has created this. All of these kinds of things. So, you know, it's important for you to understand that as a business person, your comfort level with working with data or looking at data and analyzing it is going to be extremely important, especially as we come into this time now where everybody has what we call a dashboard. Okay, and this is something that will track that says here are the 4 or 5 things you ought to be looking at, that type of thing. I want to show you this for just a minute because this is put together by a gentleman. I believe he's over at Duke University. Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to zoom it up for a minute because he talks about business data roles. In other words, the skills that people have to have, okay, to be working as one of these following levels: as a business analyst, as a business data analyst, or a data scientist. Now, about 2 years ago, I went through the data science specialization program at Johns Hopkins. It's not for the faint of heart, but it really helped me get a handle on what these folks are talking about. We're swimming in data and taking that and converting it to information, because information is actionable data, is extremely, extremely important. It's extremely important. And you can see we do all of these things with the coursework you take with us. So when you leave here, you have the skills of a business analyst. All right? You're way ahead of most of your peers. And so you know, all I can say is there's a method to our madness, and we didn't just dream this up. This is what folks are saying everybody has to have. And when he says business metrics for data-driven companies, every company is data-driven, whether they know it or not. So I wanted to show you that PDF. We'll pop back over here for just a second. Okay? And here's, we talked about the courseware there at the PDF, and I'd spoken with you some about business data roles. I want to show you this, is this talks about fighting ISIS with an algorithm. Now we know that as these folks have lost their so-called caliphate that they established, their physical territory, they've decided to become a virtual terrorist group. And so they use social media as a means to recruit people or to influence people. And so the intelligence agencies around the world are trying to figure out, okay, who's posting this stuff, what types of media do people use, okay, and can we utilize algorithms that measure what people are saying and the intensity of their words and the amount of interactions they have to say, hey, here's a person who may be getting ready to do something, okay? We're in, and I won't live to see it, but you live in a very unique age where we have, at least in the United States, well, I'd say for the Western countries, the greatest dilemma we've ever faced, and that is, how do we protect your privacy and your freedom of expression, and at the same time stop people from walking into a mall and shooting 150 people, or climb into a hotel in Las Vegas and wound and kill 500 people, or go nutty and take a van and drive it into a bunch of people. And you know, for the crazy person that's out there who's going to do it, you can never predict them, but you can follow and find and track bad people. They'll talk to each other, they'll do their planning, etc. So this article is excellent. It talks about physicists trying to build a model that helps predict whether somebody maybe is kind of slipping off out into that kind of situation. So the use of these tools, okay, is very, very, very important. Now, I would encourage you to take a look at that article, because it provides us some good insights into what's going out there. Those are the very same things, okay, that we can use to try to figure out, is someone a customer or not? Why did they come? All this stuff about big data, the collection of data through sensors, the data that are out there in social media, the data that get posted, the data that get created when you swipe your card, okay, the data that are created when you register for a website, when you post something at Yelp or a location. This past week, there was an article, you may have heard about it, where there was a young man, a gentleman, I can't remember where he's from, but he was able to, Fitbit and some of these personal fitness body wear or tools or apps are intended to create a social phenomenon. So everybody says, okay, I live in Oklahoma City. Yeah, I'm using my Fitbit. I walk 12,000 steps a day. Well, that stuff's locationally based. And if you've heard of the news, he was able to go and identify military installations over in Afghanistan and Iraq, because you could see the level of activity. Well, if he could see it, bad people can see it. Okay, so we're having this great challenge of, how do I protect people's privacy and their freedom of expression, and at the same time, okay, when someone's posting on YouTube, death to America every 3 hours, or they go and do a search on Google of how to make a bomb, you may want to have a handle on that individual and what's going on. The United States, our surveillance is limited. In Europe, they follow people. They have TV cameras everywhere. They follow everything that's posted on social media, because they have a little bit different tradition than we do, and a little bit more sense of urgency. Remember, they're right over there, okay? And we're across the ocean somewhat, so people, have got to come here. or the worst are these homegrown and home-inspired folks who do crazy things. Well, that being said, I've got the, here's pardon me, how to make a transcript. You can use it, and I would certainly encourage you to take a look at that. Now, I wanted to go over here to Module 1 because we should be getting ready to prepare that. So I want to go into the files, okay? And I want to talk about that assignment, first of all, okay? And there again, easy solver. And this covers the GRG nonlinear type of problem, the evolutionary, and we'll be working with some simplex. Now, I'm going to click on this link here for just a second, and this is due the 9th, okay? And as typical, what you're going to see is I'll tell you, okay, here's where it is in the textbook, all right? And use GoalSeek to change the selling price per unit to get a total profit of $5,000. Use GoalSeek to compute a break-even volume. Use it to compute a break-even fixed cost, all right? Now, I have the files over here, okay? You say, okay, where are the files? We'll scroll back up here, all right? And we'll go up to the files section. And we're going to come down to the MIS web files. Here they are. They're in a zip. And we're going to download them. And that's where you'll find the files, okay, for these different problems in the big book, the management science, the introduction to management science. And here are the Excel files. And here's Nolan, okay? And that's going to be, and I'll just open it up for a moment and show you. They'll usually give us some skeleton data. All right, I'm going to move this little thing I'm seeing over, but I don't believe you do. And I'll enable the editing in it, okay? And so here I have, okay, a production volume, all right? And I can, and what I tend to do, this is figure 1.8, this is figure 1.10, and I have that. I'll go back over here, and you'll want to take the instructions for that, okay? Copy and paste them to a notepad, and then put them inside the file that you're working on and submit it. I want you to try this, okay? Every one of these cases, try them. And then I'll go over how we got the correct answer and all that business, okay? So do that if you would, please. And here we see the fixed costs. And we've got the fixed cost, we've got the variable cost per unit, the selling price, and we can look at the production volume, and we can see the total costs, the total revenue, and the total profit or loss. And I say, okay, use the GoalSeek. You say, okay, where's GoalSeek? Well, I'm going to click Data. Here's the what if analysis. There's the scenario manager, there's GoalSeek, and there's data table. All right, you'll notice I also have the data analysis tool pack over here, okay? And then I also have the solver. All right, so you see it kind of in its full glory. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of get our feet wet using the GoalSeek. Now I'm going to close this for just a second, okay? Again, try it, upload it, and that you get credit with me if you try. Okay, and then I'll show you the key of how I would have done it. Okay, so if you knew how to do all these things, why would you take the course? So don't get too flipped out if you hit some difficulties, because once I go through the key and I show you the demo, you'll understand. Okay, that's where I went wrong, or that's what happened. And you'll have it to look at, okay? I want you to feel comfortable just playing around with it, see what you can do, and then you can take a look as I go through the explanation, everything is there. All right? So I want to also talk some again today and reiterate some of the business that we covered Okay, talking about, so let me do this before we go any further. If somebody says, okay, what's due next week? Here we go. Next week, Nolan Plastics is due on the 9th, okay, of February. All right, and that is, I believe, a week from this coming Friday. Let me pop on my calendar. Yes, it is. Okay, chapter 1. 35 items, 35 points, and if there's a time limit and all that, you can see it's open book, open note. It's due by midnight, okay, on Friday. This is due by midnight on Friday, the 9th, chapter 1 and chapter 2, okay? So that's what you've got ahead of you. So everything's due next week. And what I'll do Monday, okay, yeah, what I'll do Monday is we'll take a look at another case, all right, and then as we go through, we'll start to get acclimated to it and get rolling. All right, so we've got those 3 that are due and coming up. Now, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about decision making and problem solving. Okay, now I have a hard copy and a virtual copy of the textbook, and all I can say is, if wherever you buy your textbooks, contractually I'm obligated to say you're supposed to buy your textbooks from Tree of Life, okay, and that would be your choice. I do believe, okay, that the physical textbook sometimes is best for people. I have a physical and a digital copy of this text for a very simple reason. I work in both realms. I do these presentations, and so I know there's going to be maybe, I don't know how many of you who'll go, yeah, I'm not going to crack the textbook till I have to. I understand that, okay? So sometimes rather than just speaking out of a context, I want to be able to show you. So I want you to take a look at here. This is over in chapter 1, okay? And this talks about problem solving and decision making, all right? And the authors are going to walk us through that, the difference between them. This helps us understand that solving a problem is not necessarily the same, okay, as making a decision. We solve a problem, but then when we apply it, we've made a decision. And this introduction chapter, this deals with an individual who has to make a choice between job offers and how much they're going to be making, advancement, and job location. They're trying to make a decision on what they want to do. Now, this is very key, and you'll find this also in sometimes this virtual text and sometimes the physical text will jive up. But I want you to notice this, okay? Here we've gone through the steps, okay, of decision making. The steps of problem solving go beyond that, because after we've chosen an alternative, we choose an alternative, we've made a decision. Now comes the part that's the most important. This is the gray area I've talked about: implementing the decision and evaluating the results. If we don't implement it properly, we won't get the results that we think we're going to get. So that's an execution issue. So that's the difference between the two of them: implementation and evaluating the results. Now, fortunately, we have tools that we can simulate outcomes. And as we get into the course later on, okay, what you're going to find is that we'll be able to use the simulation tools in Excel to generate possible outcomes given a set of variables. The scenario manager lets you do that, okay? And it assumes you have a fairly well-known set of variables. If you don't, then you really do have to do simulation, okay? Now, this shows you the alternative classification of the decision-making process. This is important so you understand the mindset that gets expressed in the use of these tools. When we talk about optimization, we talk about using everything we have as efficiently as we can. I am a great proponent of this. I believe it. I believe that every time that somebody like UPS or FedEx or the airlines find a way to reduce their carbon footprint, it's the Lord's work. You have the opportunity, if you work for somebody, to do that work. And I think also a lot of the servant kind of work that management people do all the time. And so if you can get someone's package to them on time, that's a wonderful thing. And it's a way to minister to people. Okay? And so we can use these tools that God's given us to glorify Him and to make people's lives easier and better. Okay? And I think one of the most interesting parables or stories in the New Testament is when the disciples have been out all night and they've been fishing. They haven't caught anything. There's Jesus. He's on the shore. And he says, "Well, put your nets on the other side." Now, of course, he's sovereign over everything, so he made the fish arrive. But he was also giving us a lesson to think, use the brain that God gave us, and how is it that these experienced fishermen didn't cast their nets on the other side? Because they'd been so used to doing it one way, they were incapable of changing. And managers have to be able to change. Well, this shows you in the role of qualitative versus quantitative analysis. And let me say this, the value of your quantitative analysis, your ability to crunch numbers, will gain value the more hands-on, real-world experience you gain working for a company or working in a given industry. There's just that piece of it that you just learn from experience. Now, all of you, by the time you finish college, will be excellent students. You have to be to get through college. And that means you really know how to learn, which is a fantastic thing, because throughout your life and your career, you're going to have to learn, okay? And that's an important piece. So as you especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to start a company, you got to have a passion for that, whatever that service product bundle is, and you have to have some experience with it. Now, this walks us through, we talked about it the other day, the idea of model development. Mathematical models, they show us one there. Okay? And then here we come to the objective function piece. Here we're going to try to maximize profit or production, whatever that is, subject to some constraints. And the text gives us the verbiage about that. This is important because, and I apologize for being about a little bit more didactic than you're used to, but I think it's so important that you start to say, I got to think like this to be a successful business person. Notice that we have controllable inputs, decision variables. We have some type of mathematical model. We get an output with projected results, but we have uncontrollable inputs. Okay? The financial crisis of 2007 is a lesson in unintended consequences and uncontrollable inputs. There was no way when President Clinton and then President Bush, who followed him, could have ever conceived or known that there would be mortgage companies that would sell people mortgages that those people couldn't afford to pay. There was no way they could tell that you would even have a thing called robo, where they were doing mortgages, and instead of a person evaluating the mortgage and signing off, they just had a stamp, basically. And And no one could have foreseen the foolishness of saying, well, yeah, the housing market, the price of houses will continue to go up indefinitely. Ain't happening. So as we see this figure here, okay, we need to always understand we have these things going on, these uncontrollable factors or environmental factors. Now, they talk about the process of data preparation, model solutions, looking for the optimal, and he gives us a trial and error. Okay, and then the text is good. They give us some examples of management science in action. Okay, and then some of the different types of models that we've got out there. Okay, now I'm going to pop down here for just a minute over here to management science techniques because we're coming down to the end. Here, for example, we're talking about, for example, break-even analysis. And you'll want to pay attention because that's kind of linked into what you're going to be doing with Nolan Plastics. Here's some other techniques: linear programming, integer linear programming, simulation, distribution and network models. You are going to be absolutely amazed at how versatile a tool Solver is and how optimization is this brilliant idea, okay, that folks came up with during the Second World War, before it, who said, okay, I've got to get so many people moved so far with so much equipment, etc., and so they pioneered these techniques. And here we see all the different models that we're going to be working with all of these in one way or the other, okay? And you'll see that they are what they make this is what makes business today so competitive, because folks are saying this is the best way to do decision making and problem solving. And we want to look for a model. Management science is really now in its heyday. And one of the things we're going to do, and when we get into the course, when we do the Data Smart case, Data Smart book, excuse me, is we're going to take two sets of tweets, and we're going to build a predictive model that will tell me whether a tweet is about a product or it's not. The guy, Foreman, works for MailChimp, and what they do is they help folks manage your email and especially controlling spam. Okay? So that's pretty much what we've got going on there. Now, on Monday, we'll be back in class, all right? And I probably will what I will do is we'll talk some about a little bit about what's in chapter 2, okay? And then in addition to that, we'll open the Nolan file and we'll play with GoalSeek a little bit and then go from there. I appreciate you being here so much. All of you who are here, and those who aren't able to be here obviously can look at the screencast. And what I'll do now is when I end the screencast, I'm just going to record it, okay? I'm going to convert it to YouTube, and I'll be putting this link over in the announcements today, okay? Again, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you who are here. And please, if you have questions, always feel free to ask me. I'll try to answer them. If you don't feel comfortable doing it during class, even virtual class, shoot me an email and I'll try to answer your question. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing your work in the course. And I think you're going to find this course will be one of the more useful ones you've had. And I think you're going to find out that these tools are a lot easier to use than you may believe. That's part of their strength and also part of their weakness. Thanks, folks. Have a great weekend, and God bless you. Take care now.